And on to our next lightning talk. The biggest fear with AI is that it will at some stage replace us. Thankfully, Meredith Hassett, developer advocate at Canva, will explain what the key is to a winning partnership with generative AI.
Good morning. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm actually joining us live from Australia, so it's a little early in the morning. So I thought I'd invite an assistant to join us today to help give my presentation.
Talk about the fears of being replaced we might start to feel in the DevRel world and how we can create a winning partnership with Gen AI to preserve and future-proof our roles, and also maybe save us some time and brain power. Hi there. I am Meredith, a developer advocate for Canva. Live Meredith is in Australia, so it's very early in the morning for her, so I thought I'd take over. I'm digital avatar Meredith, made using an app built on the Canva developers platform called Hey. General AI avatars are an example of how DevRel and generative AI can learn to work together. Let's look into more insights from my experience as a dev advocate during this AI revolution and how we can learn to use generative AI to our advantage. Let's start out by level setting on some fears or concerns we as developer relations practitioners have about generative AI. Understanding why we are concerned or where we might start feeling more worry can help us better find a way to partner with Gen AI. I see one of the first areas our fear of being replaced crop up is in the generative text space. One of the main activities most of us have is to create blog posts, write docs, answer developer questions, and other text-based activities. Things like ChatGPT being used to write blogs can feel threatening to our role. Another is the space of generative AI avatars or voice. Like me here today, clearly I can do a better job than Liv Meredith since she actually has to sleep. I can stay up at any hour to give that presentation, talk, workshop, live stream, podcast, or any other video or voice style content. A growing space is the text or photo to video generative AI. Another core activity many of us do is create overview videos or live demos of how to work with our technologies and products. As generative video tech starts to improve, will that activity become less relevant? And one last one to consider is the code assistants like GitHub Copilot. Sample code snippets and apps is one of my favorite things we get to do as developer advocates. Exploring new ways to integrate my product into workflows or playing around with new APIs brings me a lot of joy in this role. As code generators get better and more popular, where do our examples fit in? I think it is important for us to have this critical lens on how our roles work in the age of AI. Unless you aspire to be the BlackBerry of this generation, having a finger to the pulse of where tech is heading is critical for future-proofing yourself. A tricky part of this can be discerning hype from true change makers in the industry, so do remember to keep your skeptic hat on when new trends emerge. But as we've seen with the explosive growth of Gen AI, this trend is here to stay. Let's look into ways we can partner with AI to help in our roles. Wait a second. Are you trying to get rid of me? Avatar Meredith is so much more fun.
No, Avatar Meredith, we're looking at ways that we can work better together with you.
Okay, phew. Live Meredith, I'll let you take over now to talk about the keys to building our relationship. See you in 2024 DevRelX Summit.
So, of course, technology is not working in our favor right now, and none of my images are loading. But I want to talk about some of the keys that we can utilize generative AI to help us in our DevRel roles, as Avatar Meredith clearly helped set up for us. So one of the first keys I want to talk about, and these images were generated with generative AI, and as you can see, they're not working this morning. They're still asleep apparently too. Is it can't replace you in its current state. Generative AI, just like virtual conferences, can't replace that in-person interaction. So generative AI can't fully replace us in its current state as DevRel. and dev advocates. It still struggles with some things. As you may have noticed, it's not fully synced in its current state with the lips actually matching the words that you're saying. It doesn't create that same enthusiasm that you get from that live person conversation. You aren't able to emphasize as aggressively or as importantly the points that you're trying to make in those presentations. And it struggled with understanding the context of words sometimes. Like, I don't know if you caught it, but it said live Meredith instead of live Meredith. So it's still figuring out that context. But what this means is we can actually use this time to learn how we can incorporate generative AI into our workflows so that as it gets better and as it progresses in its trainings, we can actually continue to use it in our workflows and truly be a partner with AI. And this is something that we were doing with Canva. So as you can see, we've incorporated a lot of generative AI tools into our workflows as well, because we can see that design is moving more and more towards a generative AI space. But by partnering and enabling those tools in the Canva workflow, just like we can enable those tools in our DevRel workflow, we're actually able to work better and future-proof ourselves because we'll have the skills to be generative AI DevRel advocates. And digital avatars just aren't that engaging. Would you really sit through a presentation of 30 minutes of a digital avatar talking to you? Again, not in its current state probably, but again, learning how to use it and incorporate it into your workflow right now can be really beneficial to make sure that as it becomes more predominant in the industry and as these models do get better, you're ready to hit the ground running and present those skills in your next job interview or at the next conference that you want to talk at. The second key, which now my images are loading, I guess it woke up, got its coffee too, I want to talk about is it can't operate alone. A lot of the value of generative AI is actually in utilizing it with something else. This is one of the things that we've seen with our apps and marketplace on the Canva platform is that a lot of our generative AI builders are seeing value from being on Canva because their technology is no longer working in a silo, just like a digital avatar presenter or these generative AI images don't really make sense by themselves. If you put them in the context of a social media post in a presentation, they make a lot more sense and they provide a lot more value to the users by using them together with other technologies. We need to utilize them with meaningful content and like slides that actually help demonstrate our point or the human interaction actually talking about what the point and what the value is. They can't provide the meaningful value that a lot of us as humans can still provide. But again, using them to augment your point or supplement in areas that you're not able to find imagery that is effective in communicating your point is a really great way to partner with them. But the real value of generative AI in its current state is in a partnership between the human component and the AI component. And now we're back to not loading. The third key that I want to talk about is it's really great for getting over blank page syndrome. One of the things that I really struggle with in my role sometimes when I'm writing those blog posts is getting over the hump of what is that first paragraph that I'm going to write. I've definitely opened up a doc, started writing a title, wrote the technical steps of the project that I want to write, and then I get stuck. And I'm staring at this blank page for minutes, maybe even sometimes hours, or maybe I'll just like completely close it out and go on to another task because I'm trying to get over that hump of that blank page syndrome. And we know this in the industry that going from 0 to 1 is really hard. And going from 1 to X is about the same amount of effort. And so if we're able to get over that 0 to 1 hump, then we're able to create content a lot faster and be a lot more productive and actually focus on the real value that we provide as developer advocates and developer relations professional, which is providing our expertise and helping communicate technology effectively. So using something like a ChatGPT to help you start off your blog posts and writing those intros and conclusions where I'm not an English major, I don't really know proper grammar. I don't know passive versus active voice, utilizing tools to help me get over those humps of making sure that my content makes sense to a reader and making sure that it's not just a blunt entry into the content, can be really helpful. So finding tools that help you get over that blank page syndrome, and that's again why we've invested so heavily in a lot of these generative AI tools for design, for images, for text, is because we see the value of getting over that 0 to 1 hump as the main blocker for a lot of people actually being effective and productive at their work. And the same thing applies for us in the DevRel world, getting over that blank page syndrome of writing that blog post and not having to stare at the blank doc to get writing your blog post is going to be super helpful to use tools like ChatGPT. And the last key that I want to talk about is generative AI really does need your context right now. There's still a lot of knowledge that we hold internally, especially in the DevRel space. This is a space that I've been in for a few years now, and it's been ever evolving and ever changing. And we have a lot of institutional knowledge that isn't quite public information and isn't part of the public realm. So utilizing our public knowledge to actually create better content with generative AI is going to be really helpful for us. It needs our context. Co-generators aren't great without actually understanding what you're actually trying to build. They can give you great generic starter templates, just like ChatGPT can also give you great generic starter templates. But to actually get the most effective content, you need to input a lot of your knowledge into these tools to make them the most effective and the most valuable for you. So continuing to learn how to use them to input your context and help you write longer form content or create videos that are the most effective is going to be a great tool to learn how to share your knowledge more broadly and make sure that generative AI works for us in the future. One of the things that I've learned in my role is not everyone understands the value of DevRel and making sure that we can get our institutional knowledge that a lot of us have in our brains, but maybe aren't sharing as publicly, can be really helpful for making sure that the generative AI context continues to improve and helps us in this space as it continues to grow. So just to wrap up real fast, the first thing is remember, just don't panic. It's not here to replace you right now. Use this time to get really comfortable with generative AI in your workflow, and this is going to make you career future-proof because you're going to be ready to handle it as it continues to grow. It can't do it alone. It needs to be shared with the meaningful content, such as those slide decks that you're creating or the content that you're actually writing to create that digital avatar. It cannot work alone. Use it to get over the blank page syndrome. Save yourself time, save yourself energy. Use it to get over that 0 to 1 hump and focus on the fun parts and the more productive parts. And again, it needs you. Your knowledge is going to be the key to the success of generative AI. So continue to play around with it, have some fun with it, and remember that, again, it needs your context and your knowledge to be the most effective and meaningful. So thank you guys so much for listening to what I had to say today. My name, again, is Meredith Hassett, and I am a developer advocate at Canva. You can reach me on Twitter or X at MLHassett. Always happy to have a chat about how we are playing with generative AI and seeing the value of being an early adopter and actually incorporating it into our workflows and tools to make it the most effective.
Thank you for this, Meredith, and Meredith's assistant. Hopefully you can both join us in the Slack channel to discuss further. Thanks again, Meredith. And
thanks, guys.